The nerines are still flowering. Lovely to see. It's week 43 and I'm getting a feeling of deja vu. Deja vu? Yeah, that's the word. We have autumn leaves all around us and the cycle of our year is coming full circle. Over the next 10 weeks we'll end up back where we started. The only problem we have on the horizon is that there's no Clara this week. She's self-isolating, having lost her sense of taste, headache and slight temperature. The problem with this is, well, we'll just have to wait for the tests to come back. She's been tested. We can't do anything more than wait. It's not ideal, and we have to think about the impact it may have on us if it comes back positive. Who knows? But having spent 15 minutes in close contact with her on Monday, yesterday, the day before, I'm a little concerned. She should shrug it off if it is, but let's not say anything now until the test comes back. The Royal Horticultural Society have said we are in crisis. The industry is lacking youngsters coming through. This is Eggleston Hall Gardens, and over the next 12 months we're going to take you on a journey of what it's like to run a nursery garden. Thomas has finished his conifers. This is a particular favourite of ours. I think we all like this. AB's Coriana Icebreaker. They're looking really nice now. There's something about a nice little bit of bare earth this time of the year. It does show things off well. Still got this side to do, of course, but these are sort of the next sort of size up. We use the sort of mid-growing ones there and the little bun ones and really dwarf ones below. It's nice to see that the holly is starting to green up. It's been in a year or two now and it was very hungry. These clouds, it's meant to be cloud pruned. It took me years to do it, and then it got hungry and very gold, and people said, oh, have you got a holly that colour? In actual fact, it was just starving. And you can see deep down now it's getting its roots in, it's starting to green. Another year or two and we'll start to really be able to thicken up these clouds. Thomas all week has been, well, for much of it, has been dealing with his conifers. They've all been, look, there's one there, look. And people like this nice colour, but a lot of people think, the bugger looks dead. This is Juniper horizontalis, lime glow. Is it lime glow? Yeah, lime glow. I think that refers to its spring colour, certainly not its winter foliage. But it is all about different colours and their contrast with each other. And if they were all green, you would be back to somebody like me moaning and bitching on about them. Don't like evergreens. So you need these lovely coloured textures and colours. I think I've said before, when I was Thomas's age, I hated conifers with a venom. I mean, it was really, I would have chopped every one I'd seen down. But as I've got older, I can see their benefit now, and I can appreciate them for what they are, even though I don't like evergreens. But they're not. They have different textures, and they have different, just a different feel about them. And a lot of them do change colour. I quite like the cryptomerias, as we've seen on other videos. They are nice. We have these two in the garden, and you've seen them before. Some, which is why Thomas has erected this net, they can, if we get really hot sun, they can burn out a little bit. So we give them a little bit of shade protection. One of the nicest is this Abies called Gold Spreader. It really is a lovely, lovely plant. I just think there's so much potential for conifers that we perhaps don't always explore because of the reputation of Leylandi, I suppose. I think we've got very few of the large ones left. These are mostly grafted ones that have been growing on here under these apple trees. They've been growing these on for 2 or 3 years now. They are a lot rarer. There's some quite interesting ones here. And then we come down to another stage. These are just young hollies. And that's it. These are the ones that we got from Matthew. We sent down to Matthew, and you can see there, these are extremely rare. We are probably one of maybe 2 or 3 people that do them in the country. But they're all sit up here for the winter. Look at that. Yeah, that's a little larch. Isn't that lovely? Now that is going to lose its needles, its leaves. That's just a dwarf larch. It's coming through. Lovely thing. And there's our Cryptomeria aracoides. Aracarioides. It looks like a monkey puzzle. I'll just see if we've got a large one left. We're blowing a bit of a gale again now. Somebody was on the radio this morning saying, oh, it's going to be dreadful, it's going to be very autumnal. That's quite daft really, isn't it? It is autumn. See, there's another larch going. Lovely colours. Yeah, we've got one aracoides left, which I bet he's stuck a not for sale label on because he want it for stock. Oh look. Yeah, well there it is. Cryptomeria aracarioides. Look at that. Very interesting. Strange. There's a lot of things here. One thing that we could have sold probably 50 times over this year, and it really pisses people off, is this one. This is a Pinsapo, I think. Abies Pinsapo. But it's not the ordinary one. It's Aurea, the golden form. I think it's the Spanish fir. when the light hits it, it's absolutely beautiful, because it sort of has this bicoloured effect. It is a very interesting thing. So people come down and they say, oh, there's a lovely conifer up there, but it's got not for sale on it. I don't think he likes parting with them. Another one. I must admit, that one's not doing it for me. What is it? It's the Calissedris, is it, I think? Yeah, Calissedris Oreo Variegata. Yeah. But it's all about personal taste, isn't it? We have here another little Eucryphia. That's the drive down there. We're quite high up above the drive here. But this is, I'll have to put a caption on later because I've forgotten which species this is. Might be Lucida or something like that, but I could have that wrong. You know, it's mid-October and it's still covered in flower. It's nice. It's not as bold and brassy and blousy as the Nymansea or the glutinosa, but it's much smaller, about a third of the size, the blooms, but there's plenty of them, and it does come at a lovely time of the year. It really is Eucryphia Nymansea in miniature. Some of the things we have in here are quite, this is the lower garden. We have the Wishing Well pond here, and you can see it looks over the old churchyard. You can just get a tease of that through the hedge. And somewhere around here, can't remember, yeah, there it is. It's a huge well. That's a huge metal sheet, and it's capped off, and under there is a great big well, and believe me, it goes down quite a long way. I need to get around the back way quietly. So these are the pots. We're just dismantling the vegetable pots. There are a few I'll keep the kale because we keep having feeds off of that. The leeks, obviously. Parsnips, carrots and beetroot. They'll be all right where they are sat there for the coming months. The others I'll probably just clean up and leave over the winter. And then in the spring, we'll take the top inch off, the bottom inch or two off, use what's in the middle, and mix it with maybe 30% leaf mould, 20% new compost, and 50% this old compost. And then we'll use it with some supplementary slow release fertiliser, the 6-month release probably. And that should do us for next year. We'll have a more concerted effort at it.
You lot enjoying that? Enjoying a rummage for all the greenery I brought back? So we've got the sweet corn and the green beans. It's all leaf off them, and you're kind of having fun with it, aren't you lot, eh? Honestly, put anything in front of the pig, they will eat it. You're eating with the sweet corn, you're eating not just eating the cob, they're having the flower, the stem, the leaf, the lot. Oh, you're all fighting over it now, are you? Focus.
I'm on a day trip today, and I've come to very, very beautiful Edinburgh, and I'm just in the Botanic Gardens now. I was really hoping to get inside these gorgeous glass houses, but we're not allowed in at the moment, so I'm just going to do a very quick pan along the outside here to show you just how huge they are. It's really lovely here, actually. It's so nice. There's some very bright coloured flowers. It's full of children. They're all on pumpkin hunts and things. So although that's probably not the most interesting footage you've ever seen, it might be the best I get. But I have found something for Malcolm, because I was going to get him a haggis as a present, but I found this, and it's a remote controlled lawnmower. Apparently you just have to sit down and it'll just mow the lawn for you. Quite tempting, I think. I reckon I can get it into my pocket, but well, I'll let you know. I'm just having a close look at these lovely pink flowers, and I'm going to sound really knowledgeable now because I believe that these are Nerine Bodenii. I mean, obviously I didn't know that, it just says something like that on the sign, but they're really lovely. Actually, there's loads in bloom still around here. It's really lovely. This is a salvia, and I actually recognise the shape of it. I didn't know you could get it in red, though. I thought they were always blue, because the ones that we have at Eggleston are this gorgeous blue colour. Sun's coming through, so that's lovely. I'm definitely coming back when we can get into these glass houses. But it is really, really picturesque. It's really gorgeous. I think that remote-controlled lawnmower is doing a good job. I'm not sure we need Malcolm anymore. Today's Poetry Corner is down by the stream that runs from the top of the garden, right through the garden and out through the old mill stream under the cottage. If you were, any of you were raised in the country as I was, you'll find that nothing takes you back to childhood more than actually just sitting by a stream and peering into the waters. Today's poem was in fact written by Malcolm, and anyone who's known Malcolm more than 5 minutes knows that despite his raucous sense of humour and rough edges, he's a very kind man with a very creative spirit and a lot of talent. And he wrote this poem long ago, and I think it's really lovely, and it really chimes with me. It's called Village Kids. Village kids, their mother's pearls, live inside another world. Creepy woods for scary haunting, old stick guns for woodland hunting, broomstick horses gallop neighing, hollow oaks good for hiding, making gangs with secret places, wary of inquiring faces. By the pond, with stocking nets, stickleback fish and tiny froglets, whirlybugs and water skeeters, jam jars full of unknown creatures. Girls collecting wild posies, boys neglecting snotty noses. Packed up lunches for paper chasers, tripping over undone laces, peeling the bag of sticky sweets, pocket matured for weeks and weeks. Chair leg bat, tree stump wickets, tip and run when playing cricket. Red sunsets to echoed shouts in warm dry air, the batsman's out. Daytime ends, bedtime's nearing, a parent's call, ears not hearing. Up the stairs, wash in seconds, read in bed until sleep beckons. Tired bodies with angel faces, drifting off to distant places. More things to do, games for playing, wars to win and dragon slaying. Village kids, their mother's pearls, live inside another world.
We're going to concentrate on some old polystyrene boxes. What are you doing? Yeah, God. Now, these polystyrene boxes, I've had years, well, for 20 years or more, they've just sat up in the shed. Well, we don't like burning polystyrene, so we can turn them into troughs. I'm going to show you how to do it, but it's, what I'm going to do is make some holes in this bigger one, just so that the hypertufa goes through the hole and blends to it the other side. Just keys it together a little bit. This one, I might make one or two. I don't think so, because it's quite shallow. And there's already some holes in the bottom of this one. These are fish boxes. Fishmongers or supermarkets often get them. The three that we completed on Sunday last week are here. Not Sunday, Saturday. And they're drying off. They'll take a couple of weeks to cure properly, but they are totally, they're hard now. But they want another, I would give them 2 weeks, 14 days to cure, really. I'm very happy with those. They are starting to fade down a little bit now. And once they get outside over winter and we put some yogurt and some moss off the walls onto them, just paint it on, and we've piddled on them a few times. That was the old way of doing it, or spreading them with cow shit or horse shit. They'll green up nicely. They look beautiful when they're... we could plant one up at some stage. The old one of 20 years ago. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'll show you the next stage in a bit. One of the hardest things to get right is the consistency of the mix. There is some leeway either way, either side. You know, you can have it. You can never get it perfect, but what you're looking for is a mix that binds. I've probably got this a bit too wet, this one. But if it doesn't bind, when you squeeze it together like this is okay. If I squeeze that, it sticks together. If it has too much water and it's sloppy, it just falls apart. So you're looking for that. But sometimes it just, it's just, you need to see, it's just experience really. I find early on it makes, when you mix the peat, the sand and the cement together, it just forms lots and lots of little balls, and that's not perfect. So you need a slight sloppiness when it comes away from the side, and as the thing turns, you feel like a flop. I can't quite explain that, but it's sort of the weight of the material flops down rather than becoming sloppy. If you can get it perfect, it's brilliant. But if you can't, a little bit too wet, it will drain out. It just takes a lot longer to cure. And too dry, it's very hard to adhere to what you're using as a framework. And the weight of the water in it pulls it away from the sides, which I'll explain in a minute. This is okay. This is fine. If you make it too wet, just add some more dry ingredients in the same ratios. The ratios that we are looking at for this, there are so many. Each person that makes hypertrophic tufts has their own mix. For this mix, I'm using 5 parts sand, 2 parts cement, and 3 parts peat. Now, I wouldn't normally be using peat, but I've got this old bale that's been in the potting shed for about 20 years. So I might as well just use that. And after that, we're going to move over to pine bark, which I'm waiting to arrive. A new supply of it, so that we won't be using peat. I don't think the effect is quite as good as it is, but environmentally it's so much better. Using up this old bale is no problem. I've just had to take about 4 rat and mouse trap nests out of it. Little bits of string and bales, because it's just sat in the potting shed there for the last 2 decades. What I'm doing here is just applying a little mark onto this. These are just old compost bags. You don't have to do this, you can guess it, but I'm just applying a little mark so that I know where I'm going to put the base layer, because we have to have here on here a layer on which the polystyrene box is going to sit. A base layer. It's important here, just squeeze it down and press it in and get a nice flat layer. You can sometimes see there's a nice, if you press down, there's a slight wetness. You want that because that water is what's going to bind the cement and ingredients together, and as it dries that will help it set and cure. On there we're going to just set the box, and then the next job is to build up the sides. The holes in, as I've said, are so that we can push material through, and then it keys to the material on the inside and forms like a solid plug that holds these sides on. I'm having to film this myself. I can't ask anybody until we get Clara's results back to help out with this, or touch my phone even. Something I forgot to mention as well is to, well, I forgot to do it, to be honest, not mention it, I simply forgot. Just put 2 or 3 quite oversized holes in the bottom. These are a bit of cut off broom handle, and then I'm going to poke a couple of them through. Again, at the end, when it's cured, these will get knocked out, and the hole can just be filed open a little bit, but it doesn't hurt. The third one is just for a bit of extra keying that will tie the base in a bit better to the inside layer of hypertufa. You can see I'm just putting it in there, because only when I put that in I thought there was something missing. So we're starting to get some initial shape on this now. It's not a quick job. I've been at this about half an hour now, and we're starting to get some nice shape. It's getting it to clag on, stick onto the sides. You can see here where I've made these holes. Now when we push this in this side, we will squeeze there either side, and that will just make that lovely solid thing through. Some people cover them in chicken wire. I just think it's an unnecessary thing to do. I'm quite happy just making a few holes in and just letting it bind that way. But yeah, it's coming on. Another 20 minutes and we'll work around it, and I'll give you another view. You build up the corners oversized because it helps you to shape it, and then you can just put your fingers down and open it up a little bit once you've got the shape that you want all the way around. There's a difference between I don't like them all sort of the same height all the way around. I like some variation, which you'll see afterwards. Don't like it to be too asymmetric. After all, these things are meant to be old troughs that were hewn out of stone, maybe for animals to drink out of, and they would have been done quickly and cheaply. This is the first one we did. That's just about done now. That's going to sit there for a few days and cure. And here we have a second one I've done. Again, using a polystyrene box. And after lunch, I'm going to do a third one. So you can see how we can do it with polystyrene boxes. There's nothing particularly hard. Yes, they're rectangular, but you can at least make them look like they're irregularly shaped. You want something irregular rather than, as I said before, asymmetric. It just gives them a more natural look. When we talk of a symbiotic relationship, it's not quite symbiotic, but because we actually do pay for quite a lot of it. But it's with the birds and the hedgehogs. Now, we feed the hedgehogs through the summer. We don't feed them in the winter because they're hibernating, but we do keep an eye on them, and then we get them sorted out if they're unwell out during the day. With the birds, we have these bins, and here we have peanuts, we have suet, mealworms, black sunflower seeds, some deluxe seed mix, white sunflower kernels, and an ordinary seed mix, which is mostly wheat. We use a conqueror feeder. It's about 2.5 foot long, and then we put about a pint of each of these feeds, and it makes a nice, it looks very nice. It's all striated. Now we fill this almost every day. The cost is about somewhere between £8 and £10 per day. It is expensive, but the pleasure we get from the birds, the pleasure we get from the customers that come in here right throughout the year that sit down and watch them. You know, not everybody's interested in gardens. Some people have a partner that doesn't mind coming out to a nursery with them and is quite happy for them to look round if they can do something else, like sit and read a book. Many people, as I've said before, sit and watch the birds from that picnic table or from that bench, or they just stand and watch. Everybody's a photographer these days. So yeah, it is a symbiotic relationship. It also helps wildlife, and occasionally we get these interesting bits of film.
Laura and Bear are trying to clear some space. Just trying to flatten all the stinger nettles. There's some wood in there somewhere that we're going to chop up for the winter. Just another one of the jobs that has to be done. Well, as you can see, we've got one whole empty tunnel, virtually empty anyway. There's a few large specimens down at the bottom there. We've had a few winds that have taken the toll on the polythene, and we're going to have a good tidy up in here and load it up again in the spring. Well, can't believe that it's mid-October already. We were lucky enough to be one of the types of businesses to open first, so we consider ourselves very fortunate. We had a busy few weeks as soon as lockdown was lifted, and we've, as you could tell, we've sold nearly a whole tunnel worth of acers. So we've had some really young and old, older people, new gardeners, which is lovely. We've got a young lad who comes in, he must be about 16. He comes in, buys a few acers, the little pot liner acers from us, and sells them on to his family, which is great. And then we've got people the other end of the scale in their 70s that have never really been bothered about their garden before, because either they haven't had time or not the interest. But with lockdown, they've discovered the garden, and I think it's brilliant. So yeah, we've done okay. But as you can see, some of them are changing colour. They don't all change colour together. Some varieties, they come out early and they tend to change earlier. One of the last varieties to change here is Hockham, which is a brilliant red. It's a bit early for it yet. It hasn't actually changed, so I'll show you that on a future video. But these are all the ones we've got for sale at the moment. So this is Hockham, so it's quite late to change. It hasn't started yet, whereas the ones next to it has already changed. This is one that I found here, a seedling. I named it Acer palmatum firecracker. There is Acer palmatum dissectum firecracker, but this is just plain palmatum, because as you can see, it just looks beautiful. The orange, gold orange and red new growth, and by the time it's finished, it just looks like it's on fire. It's beautiful. And behind it we've got a Murayama, which is another really pretty one. Similar colours, but completely different leaf. But very beautiful. Very beautiful. This is another seedling that I found here about 10 years ago, but I haven't actually given it a name. It was just so dark red and so very bushy right from a very tiny seedling. And it's been growing in a pot, as you can see, all those years, and it's on its way it'll go a bright, bright red. It's beautiful. Another one. This is one of the borders I planted up a few years ago so that we could use them for stock plants. We take the scions, the grafting material from these. You've got a beautiful, dare I say it, one of my favourites, Autumn Glory. It's absolutely gorgeous. It doesn't get too big. This has been, well, this has been planted here for a few years now and never seems to get too big. But look at the colouring on that. If anybody wants an orange, you've got a lot of red, a lot of gold, but if you want a good autumn colour orange, it's Autumn Glory. Then you've got Palmatophidium, which is the eagle's claw maple, which is green in the summer, and when the new growth comes out, the actual growth tends to sit proud, and it just looks like an eagle's claw just sat above the top of the plant, the crown of the plant. This is Inarbashadare. It's a good red, always gives you a good red. It's sort of tonal red in the summer, but it gives you a good red in the autumn. Another Palmatophidium and another Inarbashadare there. We've got Yukon up there, which will probably go gold, and that's another Okagami, which will go bright red. And then you've got your little ones down here like Kyaheim, which just go a little bit red. They're really grown for the actual shape and size of the leaf. One of the many tidying up jobs around the nursery. Bo learning to use the, what's it called, Chris?
Saw? This is a saw.
I know, it's a type of saw.
Rusty saw.
A very rusty saw.
Is there any more wood, Daddy?
Put that in the woodshed, mate. And we'll burn that.
Well done. Just outside.
It's in the entrance.
Coordination.
You think the chainsaw's better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this is a little shrub that we sell, and I really like this shrub. It makes a little mound of foliage. The flowers are quite insignificant, but it's a lovely little dome of foliage, and in the autumn you get these lovely russet colours, you know, yellows, oranges and things, but they're sort of slightly muted. I really like this. It's a beautiful little shrub, and a lovely thing to have in a little gap. It doesn't get very big. You're looking at about, oh, I don't know, well, about 3 foot all round, across and up, maybe not even quite that, but it's a lovely thing to have for autumn. And even in the winter it makes a lovely little tangled dome of interest. It's lovely, just a little front of the border thing to break up just the edge of a border or something. It's lovely, very hardly ever grown. Yeah. You can still see a fair old flash of colour Even this week, after we've had last week's exciting drone footage, there is still such a lot of colour to be had. So much so that some of the little maples that we cut back in, I think it was March, you remember we cut them back to about 8 inches and they've looked absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to just move a few of them down around the shop. I put about 50 or 60 down there at the weekend, but half of them have gone now, so we'll just do it again. Repeat the process. Well, it's good to know that Clara's test results came back negative. I think that's a relief off everyone's mind. The thing is, you just don't know how to really cope with this business. It was a question thinking, well, do we have to close down? Do we have to, well, what do we have to do? It's hard, and so I had a mad rush round and watered everything that's undercover in the hope that it would last a couple of weeks. These are huge problems, and they're going to face businesses up and down the country. Well, there's nothing you can do about it. The slightest sniffle or cough, you're always going to feel the worst. At the moment, in Europe, in the UK, cases are rising at a huge rate. But never mind, we've faced, well, nothing worse, but we've faced trials before. I was looking at this. I don't know if I should. It's almost November, and this self-sown seedling of lupin is laden with lupin aphids. It's amazing to think that these aphids are specific to lupins. They're great big fat green fly, and well, you could have a garden in the middle of nowhere, up on the moors, and you could plant a lupin and somehow they would find it. Now, where are they living? I know that they come in on air thermals, but you'd think they would be finished now, wouldn't you? I'm not going to bother spraying them with anything. They'll die off in the winter. But the little bastards, they have this thing called, as Lisa explained to me once, they have this thing called telescopic fecundity. I think rabbits have the same thing. But no, it's they can lay eggs, they can have live young, and the live young have got they're already pregnant, hence the name telescopic fecundity. Probably those young are pregnant as well. Unbelievable, really. There was a guy at I think it was when I was at Rothamsted. They many years ago he did this thing on aphids. It was his specialism. He was a scientist that specialised in aphids, and he said if every aphid that was born in a year lived, the earth would be 25 kilometres deep in greenfly. Just looking down at these now, these are the sweet peas we sowed. Can you see they're just starting to poke their little heads through? Yeah. Just on the rise. It's a little warm spell we're having at the moment. It's windy, it's occasionally wet. Look, oh, there's some more. Just starting. It's funny, isn't it? As we go into winter, we see with these, you see things germinating that you would really expect to germinate in spring. But that's the way we do sweet peas if we want the strong plants. There you are. We've had a bit of a difficult week this week, so it's probably going to be a bit shorter and a bit of a mishmash, because what with Clara's problems and one or two other things, and half term in the schools coming up, we don't have a lot of people around. And of course the work becomes different. Helen has been bringing stuff down and cleaning it, and anything that's slightly tender, like these Pittosporum or these Formiums or the Agapanthus, these lovely choiceas, we're just putting them in here for the winter, just to give them that added protection, because although winters are getting milder generally, we do get the odd one that pokes you in the eye.
We've just walked in amongst all these beautiful monkey puzzle trees. There's loads of them here because Edinburgh Botanic Gardens is a key part of the conservation of these trees. Apparently their natural habitat is under real threat from forest fire, and apparently they've got edible seeds, so they really are in a bit of a plight, the monkey puzzle. And they're a tree that sort of originates back to 100 million years ago. Apparently they were around when dinosaurs were here. So it's really spectacular. Trouble is, I've just looked at the notice board that tells us all about monkey puzzles, and I've read this rather alarming thing that says that 1/3 of the world's conifers are under some sort of threat. I've no idea how I'm going to break this to Thomas.
It's late evening. Well, actually it's early evening because in England the clocks have gone back. Pepper is going crackers because we're out after a rabbit. Look at the colour on that. Isn't it beautiful? That is a Japanese maple called Skeeter's Broom. And in this early twilight, or late twilight, it just is beautiful. Look at that. We've had a very mixed week this week, so what I'd like you to do, I've got a little special little interview that I did some years ago. I'm going to try and get that put on for midweek if I can. I just need to sort it out. I must thank Barry Parker and Peter Dixon for coming up with a copy of this. Anyway, I'll keep you posted and keep your eye out for it. It's a radio interview and it really is quite interesting. There's myself, Louise Bendel Duck makes an appearance, Gordon is in it, and of course the wonderful Geoffrey Smith. People of my age will remember him. So hopefully I'll get that out midweek. Goodbye.